joined by Pat Cummings, Thoroughbred Idea Foundation. I thought we'd catch up with you and maybe get some Belmont thoughts and then update us a little bit on the TIF. But let's start with the Belmont. You and I were talking beforehand. I like what you're thinking. I have Spinoff in my mix, and you mentioned him as one you'll take a look at, but give us some Belmont thoughts.
Yeah, Seth, I was kind of keen on him to run a big race in the Derby, and certainly there were some things that went against him, but he didn't have exactly the same type of trip that Country House did, and I think you have to respect that Louisiana Derby form, maybe contrary to kind of popular opinion that in past years that form hadn't necessarily held up. By gosh, it really held up this year, and the whole Louisiana circuit really held up, I think, pretty well. So I'm keen on him to run a big race. I'm against War of Will entirely. He's been incredibly game, and there's every reason to love a horse like that. I just think he might be found out a little bit in this particular race, although I'm not going to be surprised if he runs a placing, but I don't like him on the win spot. I do think there is some interest with Sir Winston as a really big price to maybe play around with, but Spinoff's my horse. And I've heard a few other interesting bettors offering some solid support. So my confirmation bias is going too. So I've got that too. So Spinoff for me, I think. Yeah.
And just before we move on, any thoughts on the Met Mile, which is, again, shaping up and has been for the last 2 months, one of the big races of the year. Matoli, McKinsey, Coal Front, Thunder Snow. Yeah. Thoughts on the Met?
I'm a huge Thunder Snow fan. I have been for a long time. And Christoph Soumian told me a couple weeks back, he's like, I'm coming to New York. I said, what for? And he said, they're going to run Thunder Snow in the Met Mile. So this has been about a month or so in the planning for them. It's not an afterthought really at all. And I think they view this as a stallion-making opportunity. And even though he's had those 2 wins in Dubai, the way in which he's run in America with American speed, I think has them convinced, and Soumian has said this, that they think he's much more kind of a mile and a 16th horse. Now that said, I think it's very interesting that you have the speed of promises fulfilled, you have the tactical push that Matoli's going to provide him, who actually I think set some pretty slow paces in some of those wins on the time form numbers. They had him very blue, very cold paces that he was chasing. He'll be right there with it, so it's a very good pace, and I think McKinsey and Thunder Snow will battle it out. And I'm very biased, so I just love Thunder Snow, and I'd love to see him do well in this race. And I think that 5-1's an interesting price.
And again, let's get an update on the Thoroughbred Idea Foundation, the TIF. We talked with you and we talked with Craig as the organization got founded, and it's relatively new, and you're putting out some ideas and trying to move an industry forward that is typically kind of slow to embrace new ideas. But it's been fun as a fan and as somebody who thinks some of these ideas are worth considering to go to the website and look at the papers and whatnot. Just give us an update, TIF, and where you are now.
Yeah, so we put out 4 main papers, and these are kind of the foundational papers that we'll have for a little while, because now it's about advocating for these issues. And the topics were relative to pricing, transparency, product development, and information access. The pricing topic that we chose was breakage. And we're here in a state today that has provided probably one of the single greatest returns to horse players over the last 25 years of any decision that's been made by any racing executive or any government or jurisdiction in the country. And that is to pay out to the dime on payouts under $10, which is what NYRA and Finger Lakes do on the thoroughbred side in New York State. We've been working with NYRA to maybe advocate that 25 years have gone by, and it's maybe time to take it another step and to switch that number to a penny on every dollar, so that the minimum payout would go to $2.02 instead of $2.10, which is kind of an artificial item anyway. They've been very receptive to that. And I think we're hopeful that maybe later in the year there might be some movement on that with their work. But these are not easy things to change. It involves the state, it involves the government, and legislatively to get some things done. So it's a work in progress.
And we should make clear, you talk about 202 as compared to 210, and somebody may think, big deal, 8 cents. But over the course of the industry, the churn that will develop is a big number.
Let's think of it this way. If somebody wins any race here in New York and pays $9.90, that horse at any other track on the continent would probably be paying $9.80, unless, pretty much so. That horse is going to pay $9.80. So for every time that happens here at NYRA, think of every show payout, every place payout. That it's 85% of place payouts that are under $10, about 96% of show payouts. If you're falling in that break point here, you get a dime more for every $2 bet. But on a $20 bet, that's more. On a $200 bet, it's more. On a $2,000 bet, that money really adds up over time, and New York State has given back countless millions of dollars to horse players. The problem is our industry's in a much different place in 1994 than where it is today. And handle in just the last 15 years, adjusted for inflation, is down 47%. We need to do things to stoke the churn, to stoke the takeout, to help the process along. And this is a very small measure. Breakage is retained by bet takers. No matter where you're betting, that money's being held by the bet takers. Guess what? They're going to get it back. Okay? This small change adds up. It will help for the churn. It'll help start the takeout cycle again. The bet takers are still going to get their money. The horsemen are still going to get their money. It's just another way to kind of repurpose it and funnel it through the system. We think it makes a lot of sense. Instead of pulling that money once out of the system and keep that process on the move. So we're well along the way on that, but it's not easy.
Yeah, and if people aren't really familiar, I mean, in the old days, they broke it down to the 20 cents to keep the lines moving because people are betting at the track. Now you're betting on the computer, and that penny nobody hands you the penny. It shows up in your account. So, I mean, I think that's a great issue that you guys have pulled up, one of a number, and I'll, again, advise people to swing by the website and read the papers, and Pat will catch up with you at Saratoga and get updated some more.
Thanks, Seth. Look forward to it.